Thank you so much for coming this afternoon, and I'll be the first of your lightning talks. I gotta give a sound, a lightning kind of thunder sound to it. But let's go ahead and get started, and let's talk about, I think, probably one of the most important conversations, and it's really about what a smart city is, right? We've been talking about it. Billions of dollars are spent on smart cities. There's plenty of sales around smart cities. There's plenty of excitement and energy and marketing around smart cities. But what is it? Because let's be honest, no one wants to be a dumb city, right? Right? We all want to be smart. So what does it mean to measure up? First of all, as you know, Los Angeles is a world-class city. We have over 4 million residents. We have over 500,000 businesses. And typically we have over 48 million people who visit the city of Los Angeles. We have a tremendous amount of infrastructure, right? We have over 22,000 miles of roads. That's a lot of roads, over 469 square miles. We have a city under a city. We have 6,000 miles of sewers beneath the city of Los Angeles. All of this and many other things requires a tremendous amount of resources, of investment, of maintenance just to keep a city like this running. But what I think most people don't understand is we're also a very digital city. There's invisible sensors and wires and connectivity and applications and databases and integrations, all of which are behind the scenes running the city. So while we may be a big physical site, where you can think of Venice Beach and Hollywood and all the things associated with the city of Los Angeles and celebrities, there's also a lot of digital infrastructure and digital services operating in the background. And that effectively is a smart city. What does that include? So for example, and there's many examples I could give. We heard the deputy mayor, we heard the council member describing so many different examples of what it means to be a smart city, what we do in Los Angeles. But include things like ATSAC, the Automated Traffic Surveillance and Control System. We have over 4,500 intersections managed by our Department of Transportation whose sole job is to monitor traffic, readjust traffic, turn some lights green, turn some lights red to help facilitate people moving through the city. We have improved traffic at least 20% through ATSAC, and we continue to help refine and add to it. You're seeing an image of what one of those intersections sees. It sees vehicles. It uses computer vision to identify a vehicle on the road to help facilitate and manage traffic better. If a president visits, we shut down certain traffic and reallocate it. If there's a fire, we reallocate traffic. That is what you would define as a smart city when it comes to transportation. Because instead of just having people colliding into each other, it helps navigate them and get them through so they could get home to their family, so they could get to their job with minimal hassle, so they could spend less money on gas. Those are the things that help impact what it means to be a smart city in transportation. Or for example, in our street lighting area, we have over 50,000 connected street lights that are running LED. So they're connected, so one laptop effectively can turn lights on or lights off across 50,000 street lights. It lets you know when a light is out. It helps make proper adjustments. It helps make sure it turns on only when it's dark, so it's not wasting electricity when it's not. And because it's LED, we are saving $3 million a year in electricity costs alone. $3 million. That's an example of a smart city. We have the MyLA 311 mobile app. It's not just an infrastructure conversation in smart. It's about things like digital services, data usage, and connectivity and digital inclusion. So we have over 50 city services, whether it's removing graffiti or getting rid of a pothole, accessible to any Angelino who has a smartphone. That's a lot of folks in the city of Los Angeles. In addition to that, you can get information on 1,300 topics. And best of all, just in the last few months, it's available in 6 languages. There is no other big city with human translated 311 app available in 6 different languages, because a smart city isn't about connecting a few, it's about connecting every community to city services and to their government. But what does a smart city mean, and why is it important to become one? Well, the city of Los Angeles defines a smart city, in summary, with a city that uses technology, data, and resources. Those 3 things, it's technology, data, and human resources, to improve the quality of life of residents, businesses, and visitors. In practicality, it ends up in these 5 categories. There's smart city infrastructure, right? Those physical technology used to deliver smart city technologies. There's also data tools and practices. The infrastructure alone doesn't do the trick. There's information that comes out of all this that has to be managed and used intelligently. Because really, by definition, what makes a city smart, it gathers information and it acts upon that information in a way that actually helps improve people's lives. We have digital services and applications. What's the use of having technology if it doesn't engage residents, if it doesn't provide them information, and if it doesn't solicit feedback from them and allow them to access and perpetually perform things? Back in the day, you used to have to go to a city building to get a city service. Then you could call a city building to get a city service. Then with the internet, you could go online to do it. Now you've got mobile apps. We even have an Alexa City skill for you to be able to engage and request and connect to this city the way you want to connect to it, as opposed to having to drive downtown or go to a city building to get what you need from your government. We have connectivity and digital inclusion, because as was so eloquently said earlier, it's not good enough for the government to be quote unquote smart. We're in a digital age. We're in a digital economy. All Angelenos need to be able to access the internet and have the tools and devices they need to start a business, to be educated, to have entertainment, those simple basics of it. A digital city is a truly connected city across all of its communities. And it requires smart city governance. It's not good enough just to have tools and tech. It requires facilitation, it requires coordination. The city of Los Angeles has over 45 departments that need to integrate and coordinate to deliver, in fact, one solution to residents. Residents don't care what department something lands in. They want to have a seamless experience from start to finish, regardless of what city department it lands in. But when you have 45 different missions, that in of itself requires effective governance to be quote unquote smart. But why? I think we've already kind of settled why, but why? What does that truly mean in its essence of what a smart city is for Los Angeles? Well, first of all, it means that an Angeleno shouldn't have to sit in traffic on the left to simply get to work or pick somebody up for school or go get grocery shopping. They should have opportunities as shown on the right, where they could take a bicycle, they could take rideshare, they could have microtransit, they could even do aerial drones, to have opportunities made available to them that are safe, secure, with a single payment process. That is what technology can provide. That is a smart city. Or a resident doesn't have to go to a city building like this one on the left. It happens to be the one I work in. It looks intimidating, right? That looks like government, right? You shouldn't have to go to that to be able to get a city service. You should be able to simply talk with, like, say, Alexa or Google or Siri, and then engage with your city to get the information you need or make the request you want on the device of your choice or the app of your choice. And it's technology that delivers that. You shouldn't have to sit outside of a library to get access to Wi-Fi, like this gentleman is here on the left. That's not a very comfortable position, right? You should be able to have high-speed internet access wherever, whenever, with a device that you need, because we live in a digital age, so it's important for all Angelenos to have that type of access. This and more than 53 smart city initiatives are detailed in our Smart LA 2028 strategy, in which we have a road from now to the Summer Olympics and Paralympics in the year 2028. And you can find that at ita.lacity.org. Thank you very much. Lightning topic. I gave the noise to it. But that is not it. We actually have a very esteemed panel of speakers here who represent various backgrounds who can help elaborate on Smart City 101. So I'd like to introduce to you, here, right next to me, we have Tim Johnson. He's the Director of IoT Sales for T-Mobile. Tim has an extensive tenure leading emerging solutions organizations across several industries. He's currently the Director of IT Sales, IoT, Internet of Things sales, public sector for T-Mobile, where he leads a team to provide state, local, and education communities with connected solutions which enable opportunity. Just right next to him is Scott Longhurst, who's Government Affairs Manager with Crown Castle. Scott is responsible for all government affairs activities across all three of Crown Castle's business units, towers, small cells, and fiber throughout the Southern California region. Prior to joining Crown Castle 4 years ago, he was a partner in a site acquisition and land use planning firm for 15 years, providing site development services to telecom and real estate development industries. And right next to him is Professor Sue, professor at Cal State University in the College of Engineering, Computer Science, and Technology. Professor Sue has a unique story. City. She not only attended Cal State LA, but she teaches at Cal State LA. She was grateful to receive an award in 1997 as Outstanding Senior, continued to work hard to earn a master's degree, a PhD at UCLA, and then has experience working for the city of Los Angeles. My paths with Professor Sue cross in like 12 different ways, and returned to Cal State LA as a part-time lecturer in 2014 and an assistant professor in 2019. And she has a claim to fame because right outside is a booth with her and her students demonstrating the sidewalk tool. So we're going to start to ask them questions and start to get their insight. So without any further ado, Tim, how do you view a smart city? And how does a cellular provider, we're used to thinking of smartphones when it comes to cellular, how does a cellular provider like T-Mobile play a role in a smart city?
Try that again. Woo, there we go. In LA, lights, action, let's go. This is great. No, fantastic. Thank you for this session. It's, Dawn, again, this is wonderful, Deputy Mayor and Ted and all. And I would say this, Ted, you have a good job. I'm sure you like it, but I would love to have you be my chief evangelist if you want to consider something else. So I'm just saying, you get it, buddy. No, this is, so to answer your question, again, it's a privilege to be here on behalf of T-Mobile, and just personally, I am personally extremely interested, I'll say to the point of passion about this topic. And so the first part of your question, I guess from a cellular perspective or from our perspective, what is a smart city? And again, you said it already so well, and the deputy mayor did, and the council member did as well. But one, at a very high level, and just quickly, my background is in economics. I'm not a technologist by background. It's economics. So it's always the so what. Why do we do what we do? And I think about a smart anything is really the opposite of something that's not thinking, right? And so just whether it's a person, a small child who doesn't have the opportunity to be educated as to know not to walk into a street or not to touch a hot stove, that's a matter of education. If it's an inanimate object, it's a matter of not having the intelligence within it to make a choice, right? And so in that situation, or in that analogy, something that's not smart just doesn't have the ability to think on its own, and so then it's generally reactive to the situation, or it can't do anything. So to change that dynamic is, in effect, to make it smart here. So we're now saying something that prior to whatever technology is, has the ability now to think on its own or to make a decision that's going to benefit those people and those other inanimate objects around it, because it now has the wherewithal to do it. So that would be my very broad definition.
So a smart city is a thinking city.
Well said.
Love
there you go.
So how does a company like T-Mobile help the city think?
Absolutely. Well, I think they're very well connected. And again, we feel very fortunate because I would say, and again, I think the council member said it, connectivity, or maybe you said it, connectivity is kind of the sine qua non, without which none other, I think, of a smart city. Because to make these inanimate objects, or all of us, smarter, to have the glue of connectivity kind of allowing that transfer of knowledge, of information, is a must-have, right? And again, we, by nature of our network position, including 5G now, which is prevalent, throughout the airwaves in Los Angeles, we can take otherwise non-thinking situations and turn them into rapidly processing, thinking situations. So that's kind of our high-level perspective on that.
All the smart things we do right on networks like T-Mobile's, right?
I think so.
Make it happen. Very
Absolutely.
good.
Yeah, thanks, Ted.
Scott, Crown Castle does a lot of things with technology infrastructure. How do you view a smart city, and what role does someone like Crown Castle play, especially in a city like Los Angeles?
Well, thank you for the opportunity, Ted. And, Tim said it very well, as did some others. And Crown's a little different. We're not a carrier, so we don't provide the same services that T-Mobile, AT&T, Verizon provide to their customers. We're an infrastructure company, and so our business model is based on shared assets. So we own about 40,000 towers across the United States. We have tenants on those towers, and they range from the carriers to local, emergency response agencies and governmental agencies and a number of private institutions. And we also own and build fiber optic networks, and it's really that collaborative effort between ourselves as the infrastructure builders, the carriers that are delivering services in the cities, quite frankly, that are also now in the business of providing those services directly to their constituents. And I think that's really what makes a smart city, is that collaborative effort. And, it helps diminish the need to overbuild a lot of these types of infrastructure. Rather than have proprietary networks, we can share this infrastructure now. So we're not digging up your streets 4, 5, 6 times for each company to put fiber in the ground. A company like Crown can come in, we can put a couple thousand strands of fiber in the street and make that available to our customers, as well as local businesses, governmental agencies, hospitals, other healthcare providers. And that's where I think, the city of Los Angeles has done a really outstanding job, is identifying those opportunities, looking at, a myriad of different solutions and trying to find, the best one for that specific need. And that's where, I think that's where really the smart city comes into play.
So Scott, it's a common expression to say it takes a village to raise a child. It really takes a community to raise a smart city. Is that
That's
a true
correct.
statement?
Yes,
So
absolutely.
Very good. Excellent. Professor Sue, you're a professor at Cal State LA. You don't run T-Mobile, background. You don't run Crown Castle Fiber. You have a unique perspective on this. How do you view a smart city? And specifically, what role do you think smart city technologies play in things like the sidewalk assessment initiative?
Thank you for the opportunity. The city like Los Angeles, a metropolitan city, a very, very big city, has of course, has very long sidewalk, 11,500 miles. Am I correct? Okay.
11,500 miles of sidewalks. Exactly. Yeah.
So that's
incredible.
It's incredible. That's long enough from here, LA, to go to New York and coming back from New York to LA and going back to New York. That length.
And that comes with challenges, doesn't it?
It is very, very challenging. And Bureau of Engineering has to maintain this sidewalk. It's not an easy task. Well, but also at the same time, we have to manage and provide a decent sidewalk to our citizens. So that Bureau of Engineering and Cal State LA partnered to build a rover, self-navigating rover, so that the rover can collect information such as slope data, cross slope and running slope of sidewalk, and at the same time, we collect the GPS location associated with these data points. And at the same time, we collect the images of sidewalk so that we can view the condition of sidewalk later on. So that for now, this rover is fully functional and we are in the testing phase. This rover will definitely assist city officials to prioritize their task in terms of assessing the condition of sidewalk.
So I would say a quote unquote dumb city waits for someone to trip over a sidewalk, right? Get injured, sue the city, and then we fix it. Or a dumb city hires dozens of people at a very high cost to walk the entire city, to walk 11,000 miles, take pictures, and then when they're all done, they have to go back and start all over again. But technologies like this with automation can simply proactively identify where there are problems on the sidewalk, gather information that a human being can never gather regarding slope and altimeter and a variety of different things to it, and then feed information so the city could proactively keep our sidewalks in good shape. I'm impressed.
Definitely.
I'm impressed.
Thank you.
Another question for the group, and any panelists could chime in to answer this one. Why is becoming a smart city so important for Los Angeles as we work towards the 2028 Olympics? Why does that matter?
I'll jump in. Gosh, the scale, right? Already the city, I did not realize until this morning, 459 square miles, enormous city. And then the scale of Angelinos who are here every day, and then the tourist community, 10x that. And then you think about the Olympics. I think everything we said already, as you continue to become ever smarter, because it's not like you wake up one day and you get a degree from above saying you are now smart. It's ongoing education as you look forward to the 2028 Olympics and other enormous events that happen here. Again, the ability to be healthier, safer, and overall smarter by being proactive is not going to go away. And I think we all know just the most livable cities are those in which, whether you're a young person or whatever status you are in life, you feel, again, healthy, safe, at ease, and how to get around. And so, again, yeah, just looking through the lens as Los Angeles does every day of the world community visiting here, it's imperative upon all of us to make it even easier for the community of the world to come to Los Angeles.
I think it's interesting. Here we are in downtown Los Angeles, really just a matter of blocks away is El Pueblo. And El Pueblo, as most people call it, Olvera Street, is the birthplace of the city of Los Angeles. So here we are with over 4 million people. You can go way, west, you can go north, you can go south, you can go east. But really it all started right over there. When you had a community of 200 people, you didn't need smart city technologies to manage it. But as you started to grow, and as you started to have cars, and you started to have all these different complex urban challenges around equality, around food, around city planning and homes and housing, it gets very complicated. Really, it's technology that helps facilitate 4 million people being in one place without all killing each other at the same time, I would argue. And as we welcome the world for our Summer Olympics and Paralympics, it's really going to be technology that's going to help create a good experience for the person who flies into a brand new LAX, needs to travel to the hotel, identify where to eat, visit various venues, check out softball, check out gymnastics, and all these other types of things. And for people like myself who live in Los Angeles, once again, not to go crazy during the process. I could greatly see that. Does anyone else want to tackle that one?
Well, I'll just add to that, and I think you mentioned it earlier, Tim, or Ted, is that, it's the data collection, right? I mean, as you invest in sensors and other smart technologies, it creates an enormous flow of data for the city, and it'll be, your ability to sift through that data and find patterns and things like that will help with the influx of people coming in for the Olympics. And I think the city's being very proactive. I know the Streets LA just, has gone through an RFP process to redo all their street furniture, and there's going to be interactive kiosks and things like that, so people can go up to those and in their native language get directions and, like you said, find out how to get to different venues or where to eat dinner, or when the bus or the subway is coming. And I think all of that is just going to facilitate a more efficient and, quite frankly, a more interactive experience for the people that are attending the Olympics. And each of the venues will also have technology built into them so that when people enter into those venues, they'll be able to get information on their digital devices, and it could be as simple as how long is it to get a hot dog at the closest hot dog stand, but it could also be delivering streaming video from other events that may be going on at different venues around the city. So it's that overall customer experience, if you will, that I think will be enhanced via this technology.
When done right, it's something as simple as not having to wait in line too long for a hot dog.
That's
right. Or it's something as proactive public safety that saves people's lives.
That's
actually prevents someone, actually brings your father, your mother home alive, as opposed to someone who can't seem to get to 911 and isn't able to access those services. So really, smart city technologies covers a gamut from hot dogs to life and death. Right?
It really does. And I think to expand on that, it even provides those emergency responders with data in real time, so that when they're going to the scene of an accident or some unfortunate event, they're receiving data on the way there, so that they know exactly what type of event they're going to be responding to. They won't be going into it, blind, so to speak.
So now, I may have sounded like an evangelist before, but now I'm going to go on the other side.
Okay,
I'm now going to be devil's advocate.
All right, go for it.
So here's a question for the group. We know of the importance of technology, from hot dogs to life and death. We already discussed that. But Americans also have a healthy concern about technology, right? So here's a question to the group. What can smart cities do to ensure the privacy and the safety of its residents while using smart city technologies? We've seen videos of some teenager in Europe who's using an app to change the way a train actually goes ahead and switches. We're seeing people who are constantly trying to hack and take information, use ransomware. What can a smart city do to protect itself? I don't know, Professor Sue, do you want to take a stab at that? How do we protect ourselves? What are your thoughts on it?
In order to ensure the privacy, we can encrypt the data and we can protect the data.
Yep.
And also for the safety, so we can utilize the sensor data, or we can make the infrastructure to be smarter by installing the sensors so that we can proactively collect the data and we can diagnose any possible threats beforehand so that we can protect our citizens.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I was very nice to you when I defined what a smart city is. Our definition's a little longer than that. We have words like secure and ethical in it also. So we didn't zero in on it because we wanted to keep it at a 101 level. But every technology we implement has to be a secure technology. Me taking information from you must be secure. I have no right to take it. If I can't protect it, I have no business taking it. And it has to be used ethically. I, as a government, have sensitive information about people who use an ambulance or people who submit for a request. It could be for rental assistance, et cetera. They're entrusting me with very valuable assets. I'm an Angelino. I'm entrusting my own government with those assets. So it becomes really important for government to raise the bar on that standard. And as Professor Sue mentioned, there are great technical solutions that you have to spend the money and the time and make that investment. You can't just implement something that's cool to be smart. It has to be maintainable, it has to be secure. You have to think through all the processes because as quickly as we deploy something, cyber criminals are looking to take advantage of that.
Ted, if I may too, I think it's just as you're talking, just thinking about this too, and the professor, in the bigger picture of things, we are just a blip on the map of world history in terms of having this ubiquitous connectivity where every single person in this room and online has a handheld device or 5 that they're connected to, right? And so that's been 10, 15, maybe 20 years, not even less. And so we think about what's happened as a result of that. And the reality is everything you just mentioned, the ethical security that goes with it is somewhat catching up. Let's be honest about that. I mean, there's industries around what does this now mean that we have 7 billion, not quite, but billions of people and billions of things connected. We now need to have the industry expertise kind of, protect all of that. So it's an ongoing effort. It's an enormous business opportunity, but it's also an enormous challenge that it's never going to go away. We just have to be mindful of it and be very smart about it.
I'll tell you a little quick story. I was unloading groceries out of the back of my car, and a thought crossed my mind, and it was this. I said to myself, I don't want to be the one who builds Skynet, right? Little Terminator reference right there. Because more and more things we implement, it seems almost like magic to someone from 20 years ago. The ability to carry computers with you, for those computers to be knowing, for computers to interact with other computers and make decisions that are in your best interest, that could become a very scary vision. And so it's important as a government or as our private sector partners in academia that we're not building our own demise with technology. We're not building Skynet, the computer that tries to take us out, right? We are building tools and technologies that help empower and ennoble human beings. They don't degrade human beings. And that is a very challenging conversation today as we look at social media and a variety of other topics. So a smart city by definition is one that ennobles and improves people's lives in all facets and does not degrade or take away from. That's another really, I think, important angle. And it also touches on the human conversation of connectivity and digital inclusion. You may debate and say, well, why does a city that's trying to use technology to make things like transportation or public safety or housing or planning better, what does that matter for someone who doesn't have internet access? I think the key is as a government, we're responsible that everyone can access and compete in a digital economy. So there's a very human aspect of a smart city that you just can't take away from, no matter how cool the technology or how cool the robots are that drive themselves up and down the street. It's like a Roomba vacuum cleaner, but for sidewalk assessment. I love it. Very good. One final question for the group before we let everyone go and get everyone out on time. What smart city technologies can visitors see at your booth today? So I'm going to start with T-Mobile.
Yep.
What are people going to see at your booth outside?
Yeah, thank you. And again, we just have a smattering of things. I mean, the reality is now between the connectivity and the partners we have, literally globally, there's almost nothing we can't do. But we have examples here, some of which the city is already deploying, such as air quality sensors and things sometimes, frankly, that aren't so dramatic, to use that word, as leak detection, right? If a entity, whether it's a city water main or a hydrant or a public building, can detect a water leak, just think of the dominoes that are not toppling over as a result of that leak. We have examples of those. I think one of the messages that we're trying to convey to the team here is that it is now possible, rather simply, safely, securely, and then scalably. Is that a word? Thinking about Los Angeles, deploy these things in a manner we never could before. So yeah, welcome your visit if you have a moment. Thank you.
Scott, what could visitors see at Crown Castle's booth?
Well, again, Crown Castle is focusing primarily on the infrastructure component of it, and we were successful in working with Ted Allen and his team and others at the city a couple years ago to get what we call a micro-trenching ordinance passed, which now allows for the use of that innovative technology here in Los Angeles. So rather than do traditional trenching to deploy fiber throughout the city, we're now using what amounts to a rotary blade that cuts about a 2-inch wide slot in the street and to a depth of about 16 to 20 inches. So we're avoiding existing utilities that are already in the street. We're minimizing the impact of the deployment of fiber on the street, the physical streets themselves. And it allows us to do this in a much more rapid fashion. So we're also not closing lanes to traffic and blocking on-street parking. So it's a moving operation. So we can do 3,000 to 4,000 linear feet in a day rather than many weeks. So that is an opportunity now for the industry to work with the city to deploy this infrastructure throughout the city. And we're also working with other agencies like the Bureau of Street Lighting to look at technologies like smart poles. So as we bring fiber optic connectivity to small cells that may be located on a streetlight pole, it also provides the city with an opportunity now that there's power and an internet connection there to deploy sensors, cameras, and other technologies. So, it's a convergence of a multitude of different technologies, but again, we're looking at how do we share that infrastructure and have multiple uses at one location.
Professor Sue, remind the audience, what would they see at Cal State LA's awesome booth?
Thank you. Thank you. You can see a self-navigating, fully functional rover that equipped with various sensors, including a digital level where we can collect slope data and also cameras. We have a still image camera and depth camera. And also we have a GoPro camera can provide stereo images as well. And also we have a few other sensors such as GPS module and IMU module as well to collect the orientation of this robot to assist in the self-navigating. So please stop by our booth. Thank you.
So if I were to try to summarize this conversation, I think of what smart city means to Los Angeles. I think of a thinking city. I think of a data-driven city that gathers information and then utilizes it to make good decisions. I think of it as being human-centered as opposed to some kind of technology, masterpiece in a museum that does no service to the people who live there. And I also think of a downright cool city with robotic rovers that do sidewalk assessments. Okay, please, a round of applause for Professor Sue, Tim, and Scott.
Thank you.